Evening, everybody. It's 10:30 Thursday night. I'm just gonna do an audio, video, whatever this thing is, to explain the Rally Cap race selection. I got an email from a partner who um, basically stated, "Hey Mike, I really hate the 40K claimer. He's been competitive in every race, was improving up until the last race. 4 races off of a win. Um, let's see. I do get the spot, but do we really need to risk losing him for a little purse money? I really disagree with your decision. I don't think we need the race, and there's way too much risk to lose him. Disappointing." Um, Often I do get these kind of replies whenever we enter horses in claiming races that we purchased at auction. I always do my best to address those concerns. Um, to this day, any horse we ever bought at an auction, there has not been one horse. There's supposed to be many, but there has not been one horse that we bought at an auction that you will look back and say, what the hell were we thinking?" We had 2 horses off of a claim that we had for one race. Go on and do some things, but that's a claiming horse. What about the previous connections that gave that horse up, and the previous connections before that gave that horse up? Take a horse like Monty Man. Steve Asmussen lost that horse for 14,000. So anyway, but horses that we know, that I know, horses that I bought at a young age, got to see them progress, having a strong understanding of our horse's abilities, capabilities, and limitations, and understanding the racing conditions for horses as they mature, what type of races are available to them, and what type of efforts are required to beat them. So we're just going to discuss Rally Cap. I'll just use the email that I just read off as a baseline. The first thing we want to address here is he's been very competitive in every race since his win 4 races ago. So let's just kind of go back to the very beginning. We'll start off with the purchase of Rally Cap. So when Rally Cap was in the ring, we were bidding on him. We were in the back, and the bidding stopped at the 60,000 that we purchased him for, and the bidding stopped for a couple minutes. The bidding resumed, and no further activity took place, and we got Rally Cap for 60,000. Soon after the hammer had dropped, we found out when he was in the ring, he was acting up very badly, almost flipped over. Therefore, they had to pause the auction before they could resume it. This behavior, as you all know, has carried on throughout his career, whether he was in training at Saratoga to his most recent race. The horse is a nervous wreck. That in itself is a big obstacle. And while Rally Cap certainly has talent, these obstacles will just make it too difficult for him to realize his potential. And if you look the last race, that was when things just got its worst. He was completely drenched, washed out, rearing up in the paddock. These behaviors have been with him since the beginning, and they're unlikely to leave anytime soon. He acted up at the starting gate last race so badly, and there's like this email, and I also just got another email just came in. Um, a lot to risk losing him. The truth is, there really isn't a lot of risk because he's not as claimable as you think he is. I'm going to explain. I'm going to go through some of the races, and if he is claimed, so be it. This kind of behavior, first off, is very dangerous to the horse, the riders, the jockeys. Every day the horse trains, he is putting people at risk. And we're going to have a much shorter leash with this kind of behavior. It's unacceptable, it's cheap, it's unclassy. As these horses mature through 3-year-olds season, these races become faster and more competitive, which is what I'm going to address shortly. This limitation will make it extremely unlikely this horse will realize much more potential than he has shown. Now, there's always a chance I could be wrong, but the extreme unlikelihood of that happening is very low. So here's where we're going to start off. If you guys can see my screen here, this is Rallycap's career. The first thing we want to do is just even start off with who is Rallycap. He's a horse by a stallion named Gradar. If we pull up Gradar in the stallion chart, he's a very poor stallion. That's why we're able to obtain this horse at a relatively inexpensive price. $60,000 at a 2-year-old sale is bargain basement type prices. If I go to here, this is all the babies by Gradar. His babies first started running in 2015. This is all the horses sorted by lifetime earnings. This stallion is off to a pretty poor start. He is not a good stallion. So he's not a good stallion, and that in itself will turn potential claimers off of the horse. That's why we were able to run him for $50,000 back here, race number 2, and nobody took him then for $50,000. So these are what the benefits are for claiming a horse from a stallion like a Gradar. That you kind of get to push some of the edges that you normally would not be able to push. If we look at the lifetime earnings for all his babies, if you look down here, there's 133 horses to run. And already at the bottom of page 1, the earnings already dropped to $71,000. This is a bad stallion. We have to factor this into the equation. If we pull up Rallycap and we look at his siblings, he has one sibling over here, Story of Success. Story of Success ran a maiden 5 claimer, got beat by 14, maiden 5 claimer, beat by 10. So there's nothing in this pedigree to this date that would indicate people jumping to the claim box to put a slip in for Rallycap. Pretty much anybody who's going to claim a horse like Rallycap, they would have witnessed his behavior several times. That is a complete turnoff. It's also why we were able to run Zandora, who just won by 12, in a maiden 40 last race because her gait behavior was pretty poor as well. There's other things besides that, but for the most part, that played a big role. So if we pull up Rallycap, we have to go back to start dissecting who he has run against and what type of efforts he's put out. The reason why this is so important is the timing of the year. It is now May of a 3-year-old season. This is when it's make or break. And You have to be able to look deeper into the horse that you have, who he's going to run against, and how difficult these races will become as these 3-year-olds mature. A lot of the nicer New York breds that were big winners at 2 got the winter off, and now they are coming back. We're going to address all these races momentarily. What I want you guys to focus here is if we look when Rally Cap won on December 9th. Again, he was in for 50. At that time, I had many emails coming in disappointed that we were running for a claim. Lucky we did. We did not get claimed, and we won. In this email I got, it stated we were running for little purse money. This race that we're running in coming up is for $60,000. That is not little purse money. That is quite large, actually, for a race of the horses of this ability. These races will not exist going forward. The New York bred restricted only ones, there are going to be very limited options for that. But anyway, we're going to address these races a little bit deeper. It's very important that you guys understand this. So if we look back at this maiden 50 that Rally Cap won on December 9th, we need to look deeper into it. Just so you all know, many of you are first-time partners with us. I don't make decisions based on emotion. I look very deep into underlying data, and we make sound decisions off of that. When he won his maiden 50 on December 9th, we're going to click into the chart. These are the horses that he's beat. Did he beat anybody good? Do you guys know? Can any of you guys who may disagree with the option, with the choice of putting him in a claiming race for 40, off the top of your head, can you tell me who Cause for Applause is? Who is Center City? Who is Tailspin? Who's Wisecracked? Barrel of Stout? Wheeler 45 Silver Token? Who are these horses? Do you know? It's very important that you do, because this really will tell you a lot. And this is just part of the process. I could just give you the summary right now, and you can take my word, but I'll show you deeper data to show you what I'm about to show you. Would you believe that this race occurred 5 months ago? And guess what? Not one of these horses have ever won a race yet. This was a poor field, as many of the New York bred races tend to be. That's why they're pretty decent purchases, because you run against inferior level horses for pretty good money. Rally Cap beat Cause for Applause. Let's click on Cause for Applause. He moved to the turf off of a layoff and ran 6th. He's with Christophe Clement. This is what I was just talking about. You notice he had the layoff for the winter. This horse probably has some decent upside. That's why he got the winter off. The better horses tend to get the winter off and come back in the spring. Center City. This horse, since December 9th, ran 8th by 24 maiden special weight, 4th by 7, 3 by 5.5, and 7th by 27 in a maiden 30. This is a horrible horse. This horse has no business being in the state of New York. Well, at least on the NYRA circuit. Tailspin. Tailspin, after that race, ran 3rd in a maiden 30. This horse is no good. Wisecrack, just getting clobbered since then. This horse is no good. Barrel of Stout. This horse just got beat by 16 and a half in the same maiden 30. 30 lengths in the maiden 30. This horse is no good. Wheeler 45. This horse just ran maiden 20. He's no good. 7th, 3rd, 8th, 10th. This horse is garbage. Silver Token did not finish and has not run since. So there is not one victory in the 7 other horses in this race over 5 months. This is really, really as poor of a field as you're ever going to see. We move out of that maiden race and we enter January 18th in a starter optional claiming race. Trance beat us. Trance is not worth 40,000. Americano, we couldn't give him away right now if we tried. Americano is no good. Bustin' to Be Loved. This horse he won maiden special weight and just completely has been clobbered since. Completely running over his head. Just ran in a New York bred allowance and got beat by 19. By the Seashore. This horse got second in a race at Laurel, an optional claiming allowance. This is probably the best horse that Rally Cap has really faced. Chicken Valley Road, horrible. He won an $18,000 race at Finger Lakes. Not one of these horses is worth $40,000. And if we look at 1,000%, after he won that race, he came back, ran 3rd in the allowance. He's a solid horse. Even he ran for 50, was not claimed, and he probably is one of the better horses that Rally Cap has faced. Off of this race, this is where it gets very. This is something that you guys need to learn. But if you notice, when Rally Cap ran in this allowance race here, there's only a 3. There's no arrow pointing up. These first 2 allowance races, so early in the year for 3-year-olds, for New York breds, they restrict the race to just 3-year-olds. So this kind of softens the race up. And this plays a big role in why running for 40 is the right choice. These are pretty much soft allowance races. It's all downhill after this. Yes, we got second by 5. If we go back and look at who we beat Caden's Courage. That horse just ran second in that same race that we just ran. It got claimed for 60. The fact that Rudy was willing to give a horse who's already been multiple stakes placed for 60 tells you what? Rudy gets it. He's in the same position we are. This horse is better than we are. This horse won a maiden special weight. This horse got 3rd in the maiden special weight. 3rd in the maiden special weight. It was 2nd in a stake race. 3rd in the New York Stallion Series. 2nd in the Regal Park. $100,000 race. Just lost by 3/4 of a length. 3rd in the allowance. And Rudy gives him up for 60. Because he's in the same position that we are. This is a better horse than we are. And he gets it. It's time to move on because he has to capitalize because of what's coming. And this horse he's a pretty nice horse. Trance. That's why we moved on from Trance for 32. Similar situation. There's just a point where these races are going to start running away from us. So somebody said in the email, do we need to rush? We're not rushing anything. I understand what races are ahead, and this is like a no-brainer spot. And again, don't ignore how misbehaved this horse is every day and how he comes over to the racetrack rearing up. it's going to be hard for somebody to give you 40,000 for him. And if there's someone crazy enough to do so, so be it. Um, I think there's very little chance that he's going to be claimed, and to run for a $60,000 purse, where we're probably the horse to beat, for a very slight chance we're claimed. Um, I'm not going to pass that opportunity. And then the horse that came fifth here, Riken. This horse just got beat by 35 lengths. Here's the 3 and ups. This is where the races start to get really tough. So the 3-year-old only race that Rally Cap has been running in, those are over. If we look at Beachside, this horse got beat by 15 his last race in that allowance. Straight 3-year-old allowance. Bustin' to Be Loved, we already covered. We geld him, and then we run him in this race. This was a bad race. This is a bad race. Bronx Bomber, this horse ain't no good. 28 lengths, beaten in the maiden special weight, 33, 10 and a 50. Catches a soft field here, and then the starter allowance was just garbage. This is the one we just ran in. Pathetic field. Cadence Courage, who we covered, was second. These are all bad horses. And so when you factor in that the 3-year-old only clause for the allowance condition is over, we have an opportunity to be the horse to beat. We are completely a misbehaved horse. We have a poor pedigree, top and bottom. It's not as much risk as you think. 60,000 is a big purse, and that purse potentially won't be there later. They don't write these New York bred straight 3-year-old races too often, and 40 is like as high as I've ever seen. And coming off of a race where we were much the best on paper, and we run like shit, and our horse is so washed out that he walks into the paddock completely drenched and he's rearing up. These are where you push the angles. And if we actually felt that the upside was too high to gamble, I wouldn't make the move. Also, if you look at your operating agreement, last year's horses, I did a prorated 2-year management fee. I have to give that back on a prorated basis, which basically means if this horse is claimed away from us, I have to give back quite a bit of money. That did not stop me from running him for $50,000 back in December, even though that would have cost me $6,000. I manage objectively. I don't put myself first, and I'm not short-sighted. I'm looking at the big picture. I'm running this horse for 40 because the very slight chance someone will pay for it is it's very minimal, and the upside of picking up a $60,000 purse with a horse whose upside is not as big as you think it is. Like I said, we've beat really bad horses, and we look better on paper than we probably are. And when you factor in the horse's behavior, the risk that he's putting the trainers at and the jockeys and the horses' lives at risk every day he's training on the track and during the races and rearing up in the starting gate and rearing up in the paddock, we're gonna choose the more aggressive approach because that window can shut quickly. I'm very confident that he's in the right race. In fact, if anything, I'd be more concerned that we're not good enough to even win the race than we are to lose a horse who's going to go on and make us look bad. I think we did very well for that purchase price, but with this horse's behavior, it's just going to limit his ability to realize that potential. In fact, had I knew he was acting like that in the ring, I probably wouldn't have bid on him any further. Those behaviors are really bad, and you don't want those kind of horses around unless they're truly showing huge potential, which I just demonstrated. We beat a lot of bad horses, and the 3-year-old season right now is in an early stage. These races are going to rapidly get better. So when Rally Cap falters last race as a huge favorite, there was more to it than just, oh, he had a bad day. Our opportunity to strike is now. And like I said, I lose a lot of money if he's claimed. It doesn't stop me from doing what's best. I know this is a long video, but trust me, fellas, I do this every day. I know our horse. I know our horses. I know the conditions of all the races. I know them inside out. And this is the right move. There's no doubt in my mind. And if I'm wrong, it's going to be I'm wrong because he wasn't good enough to even beat this race. I'm not going to be wrong that he was much, much too good for it. I'm very confident about that. And I'm willing to risk having to give up almost a whole year of management fee to take that risk. Just as I was when I ran him for 50. So it's time for us to turn off the emotional dial. I know it's easy to look at the PPs and say this horse has finished top 3 in all 5 of his last races. But unfortunately, guys, these races that he finished in aren't going to be this level. They're going to get rapidly faster. This is when 3-year-olds take off, the better horses mature, better horses ship in off layoffs, and your opportunity to strike, when you have an opportunity to get $60,000 purse. And if he is claimed, we're getting claimed at a fair price. $40,000 at this point, that's pretty good. So just trust me here, guys. I go through this every time. I went through it when I put him in for 50 the first time. I went through it when I put Let's Go Mets in for 30. I went through it when I put Zandora in for 40. I went through it when I put Out of Trouble in for 42 times last year. I went through it when we put Celtic Chaos in for 75. I'll go through it all the time. Go back and look at our record of all the horses who have run that we've bought at a sale. Horses we know inside out. And you won't find any that you can look back and say, what were we thinking? These are all well thought out. And you can rest assured we're doing what's best to maximize the potential for what's available to us. I know this video was long, but I try my best to explain the processes that go behind all the decision making.